When we talk about famous, world-captivating cold cases, names like D.B. Cooper or maybe Amelia Earhart usually spring to mind right off the bat. But Italy harbors this decades-old mystery that literally haunts the public imagination just as fiercely. Today, we're diving into this explainer to unpack the absolute enigma of Mirella Gregori. We're going to be looking at the facts, the timeline, and the pieces of a truly massive puzzle. Now, you might have actually heard of Emanuela Orlandi. She's famously known as the Vatican Girl, and her face has been plastered across international news for decades now. But here's the thing. Long before Emanuela vanished, another Roman teenager walked out of her family's apartment and just disappeared. Her name was Mirella Gregori. She was a 15-year-old girl, and her story, it's not just a tragic cold case. It actually might be the missing key to a huge, infamous puzzle. So let's look at how this all started. Section 1. The day Mirella vanished. To truly wrap our heads around this case, we have to ground ourselves right at the beginning. And honestly, what's so chilling here is just how completely mundane this timeline is. I mean, picture it, a totally normal, sunny Saturday in Rome, May 7th, 1983. Mirella was a typical teenager, helping out at her family's cafe near Porta Pia. Then, right at 3:30 p.m., everything shifts. She gets a phone call. After that call, she tells her parents she's heading out for the afternoon. She says, I'm going to the monument in the Villa Borghese Park. She gives her parents a kiss goodbye, walks out the door, and, well, nightfall brings the panic. She never came home. The sheer everyday normality of that afternoon makes her sudden disappearance just completely baffling. And this actually brings us to the catalyst for her leaving the apartment in the first place. Mirella told her family that the 3:30 p.m. phone call was from an old school friend named Alessandro, and he had asked to meet up. So, obviously, when the panic set in and the police began investigating, they immediately started looking for this guy. But they discovered this really chilling truth. They combed through the records, checked her schools, and they found absolutely no record of an Alessandro that fit the description. None. It was basically a phantom call. Mirella had literally stepped off the face of the earth to meet someone who seemingly didn't even exist. Section 2, Shadow of the Vatican Girl. Now, just as the local headlines in Rome were buzzing with this terrifying news about Mirella, a massive complication struck, something that would permanently change the trajectory of the investigation. Think about this number for a second. 43. Exactly 43 days after Mirella vanished on that sunny afternoon, a second girl vanished in broad daylight. 43 days is barely a month and a half. That is a terrifyingly short window of time for one city to experience two high-profile, incredibly bizarre disappearances. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why the police panicked and immediately linked these two events. Just look at the eerie parallels here. On one hand, we have Mirella Gregori, vanished May 7 in Rome, age 15. On the other hand, Emanuela Orlandi vanished June 22nd inside Vatican City itself, also age 15. The similarities are just impossible to ignore, right? They're the exact same age, living in the same city, vanishing under similarly bizarre circumstances within just 43 days of each other. Investigators immediately looked at this and said, okay, there's no way these are coincidences. These are linked for sure. But here is where the tragedy really compounds. Emanuela Orlandi vanished from within the actual walls of Vatican City. Because of that specific location, her case didn't just make the local evening news, it exploded into a global media storm. The whole Vatican Girl case deeply entwined the Holy See, international espionage, organized crime. It was literally like something pulled straight out of a spy novel. The entire world was fixated on it. But put yourself in Mirella's family's shoes for a second. As all the cameras and all those investigators turned their lenses toward the Vatican, your daughter's case, tragically and very quietly, fades into the background. She was entirely eclipsed by this global spectacle. Which brings us to Section 3, False Leads and Dark Furies. So, despite the media moving on, Mirella's family never stopped searching. Over 40 years of heartbreak, we've seen a variety of really tantalizing, yet ultimately super frustrating clues pop up. For instance, in 2011, an anonymous tip sent investigators scrambling into a basement beneath a Roman apartment building. But the search turned up absolutely nothing conclusive. Then, jump forward to 2018. Bones were discovered during renovation work at the Vatican's Nunciature in Rome, and wow, did it spark an absolute media frenzy. People really thought they had finally found Mirella or Emanuela. But once again, DNA testing ultimately ruled them out. And honestly, to this day, the theories run completely wild. We're talking everything from human trafficking rings operating in 1980s Rome, all the way to deep systemic cover-ups by powerful institutions that, well, preferred the truth to stay completely buried.
Finally, Section 4, the lingering questions.
After looking at all these timelines, the wild theories, the media storms, we really need to ground ourselves back in reality here. At the center of all this noise, underneath all the espionage and Vatican intrigue, is just a totally normal 15-year-old girl who went to meet a friend at the park. Over 40 years later, Mirella Gregori's family still desperately deserves answers. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder. Looking at the evidence we've mapped out in this explainer today, what do you think? Are Mirella's disappearance and Emanuela Orlandi's part of the exact same dark conspiracy? Or is Mirella's case an entirely separate tragedy, just a localized crime that was unfortunately lost in the massive shadow of the Vatican? It's a mystery that absolutely demands our attention, and understanding the structure of these facts is the very first step to keeping her memory alive. So keep questioning, keep analyzing the facts, and I'll see you in the next explainer.